OTA here. We can see the aperture of the telescope is actually 130 millimeters, or about 5 inches, so it's quite on the small side. But actually I quite like that because I'm actually challenged to get the best possible pictures I can from a small aperture, and that's one of the aims of my channel. I'm thinking that, you know, how can I help people get into astronomy, get into astrophotography, learn the basics of beginner's astrophotography, and develop their skills so that they can use a simple piece of equipment such as this OTA here and get the best out of it. So if I can now, I'd like to tell you about the different parts of this telescope. I've got some tube rings here from Skywatcher that help connect this tube to a dovetail here, and this dovetail connection fastens to the equatorial mount here, and this is actually the part which matters most. It's the equatorial mount. The equatorial mount is the part which basically tracks the stars, which you need to do so that you can take long exposures. So this is the camera here, and it's actually a cooled camera by Zoll. What I've got here is actually the ASI 533 MC Pro color camera, one-shot color camera, and here's my focuser, so I can adjust the focuser here. This is shooting at prime focus. So here, if I come down here you can see the equatorial mount here and the counterweight here, which balances the whole rig. Here I've actually got a pier extension, and the reason I've got the pier extension is to move the back of the OTA up so that it doesn't hit the tripod legs when doing meridian flip. That's something I did encounter. See, there's a clutch here, and that's the 0 position, and then this one has a clutch here. This one can swivel this way and this way. So, and if we bring the video around, here you can see there's the camera and there's the auto guiding system. Now the auto guiding system here is basically another telescope, a very small one. It's a SVB Bony 60mm guide scope, and it's fixed with rings and an attachment here to the body of the telescope tube. It's focused here, and there's a second camera here, which is connected to my laptop by this, and this is really the point of this is to fix on several stars and actually to ensure that if the tracking of the mount moves slightly, there's a feedback circuit and it basically corrects it and puts it back into exactly the right place. You can also see here the controller for the computerized system of the telescope, and you can see I've got quite solid tripod legs, and I tend to keep them as close as I can at the bottom. Here's a close-up now of the equatorial mount, and here you can see I've marked here my 0 position. Here you can see the counterweight, and here you can see this is a locking key. This keeps the whole thing from moving, and here is the latitude circle here, the one that I normally have to set. I'm at 38 degrees latitude. This knob allows me to move the settings up and down, and I have these side-to-side settings here which move the whole thing that way or that way. I'm now going to go on to describe the first and original setup that I used, which really was composed of 3 or 4 simple pieces such as a tripod and a DSLR camera, which I then got modified, and that is the simplest way for a beginner to start astrophotography. In this part of the video, I'll talk about the most basic astrophotography setup, which is most suitable for beginners. And that's basically this one, where basically you have 2 or 3 parts. You have the tripod here, so you need a pretty sturdy tripod. You don't want it to be shaking or vibrating in the wind or something like that. Um, and I use a DSLR on the top here. Um, you can use any DSLR that you have handy to get started. But if you really want to get serious with DSLR, you need to consider one of the best models, and there's lots of advice on which ones to choose. I've also written quite a bit on my website about that. I'll just take the camera off now and show you. Basically, I've got a zoom lens on here, but you can use a wide field lens, any kind of lens. There's also a UV filter on here, which is quite handy and highly recommended. I'll talk about filters at another time, but what you do want to do when you're using DSLRs for astrophotography is you want to make sure that you set to manual focus. So here on my lens, I've got automatic focus or manual focus. So I've set it here to manual focus. That's very, very important. Again, you would think, wouldn't you, that when you're using a DSLR and you're taking pictures of stars, then you would set this to infinity. But usually what you find is, depending on the lens, it's not quite, you need to adjust it a little bit. It's not quite affinity, so you'll have to back it off a little bit, and you'll find your ideal focus point. Take a few test shots and so on, and then it'll become clear if you're properly focused or not, especially when you zoom up. Okay, so this is a pretty basic Canon DSLR. This is actually a 600D and quite an old model, but I got it modified because one thing you may need to do for basic astrophotography is to improve the images. You need to capture more of the hydrogen alpha, which is commonly a red color in your images. So you have to take out an internal filter. That's a modification that, for example, I got professionally done. And so there are a number of criteria by which you should choose your lens. You can do wide field, let's say 16 to 50 millimeters, or you can get some zoom lenses. This one goes to 85 millimeters, but I've also got a 135 millimeter Samyang lens, and you can go to a telephoto lens. Basically, this is the lens equates to a telescope in the earlier, more sophisticated setup. In a beginner's setup, you basically need a DSLR, a lens, a tripod, and in between, some people use a star tracker if you want to do long exposures. With this setup, with no star tracker, you're going to be limited to shorter exposures, let's say maximum, as I found, on very wide field shots of the Milky Way, for example, I've been able to do 20-second shots. This then is a beginner's setup, much more simple, and you can get started pretty quickly. You want to use a plate like this, which is screwed to the base of the camera mounting, and that just fits into the tripod like that. And I've got a really nice handy control here where I can move the camera and I can twist it and it stays in that position, and also loosen this screw here and that will rotate that way. So I hope you've enjoyed the video today. This has been one in a series of videos that I will make about beginners astrophotography. I'm going to go into a lot more detail on certain aspects that will help you improve your astrophotography and help you to get started. So I've only posted a couple of videos so far, but lots more are coming. So in order to stay in touch with what I'm doing and get the latest videos, please be sure to subscribe. And also, if you like this video, that will really help me to get this video out to more people. Thanks for watching. Until next time.